What's up, everybody? Welcome to IGN GameScoop. I'm your host, Damon Hatfield. This is Justin Davis,
Hey!
Ryan McCaffrey,
Greetings.
and Brian Altano. And our topic today comes from viewer Birch Miller.
Birch?
Yes.
Cool.
It's a good tree.
He thinks video games today need to be providing us with more options. Maybe a strange topic, but let him explain. Let him explain. He says, your discussion about the death animations in the new Tomb Raider game reminds me of something I've been asking for years now. A few weeks ago, we were talking about those very grisly death animations in Tomb Raider. Why don't developers give users more gameplay options? Developers need to realize, he's calling out these developers need to realize that this generation wants all the customization they can get. I mean, is that true? Before we go any further, is that true? What is this generation wants all the customization?
I mean, that's absolutely true. Like, it's a big thing with even gamers younger than ourselves that, you know, customizing your iPhone faceplates. I get Xbox faceplates were never a thing, but
They were $15. That was the problem.
Weren't they even more? They were like $20, I feel like. Anyway.
The way that the kids these days accessorize and, you know, no one wants to just have like the same. Like when I was growing up, everybody had to have a starter jacket. That's what you had to have. But now like
the NFL team of your choice embroidered on the back?
For sure. But you could also, it was the team of your choice, but you had to pick one of these three teams or you sucked.
The Raiders?
Well, I mean, not where I was. It was
Giants.
The Packers.
Anyway, let's continue on.
What are we
Now, you could say that adding options will change the gameplay, but if it's optional, then what's the big deal? So here are a few ideas of things that might make games more interesting.
All right.
So he wants, for example, there to be a mode without enemies, like in Uncharted or BioShock. So sometimes I just want to look around and find items. Why not give me the option of exploring a world without the tedious job of shooting people? Journey, anyone? But like, that's not an option. Well, in the game, that's the whole game.
Yeah, it's not like there was a shoot people mode in Journey.
Yeah.
Like if you, well, he's talking. That's what he's saying. It could be like Journey.
Sure.
But if you find that if it's a tedious job to shoot people in BioShock, maybe this is not the game for you. Like,
Well, you know, this whole thing just takes me back to early '90s games. You know, like Doom, one of my all-time that's one of my 5 desert island games, right? Because you can play Doom over and over, and you know, it's got easy cheat codes. IDDQD, God mode, IDKFA, all guns and weapons.
Sure.
And you could just turn on no clipping mode and just fly through the levels if you felt like it.
It's more common in PC games, right?
Yeah.
I feel like.
so we were teasing Birch a little bit, but I don't necessarily disagree. I mean, I think that, you know, there used to be, when you finished a game, there would be lots of stuff to go back and do. Like GoldenEye was full of, you know, cheats and codes, and Doom, like you're talking about, SimCity. I feel like if you beat BioShock, I mean, why not give people the option? Maybe almost nobody would like it, but how much time would it really take to implement a mode where, sure, just like run around Rapture and you don't need to worry or be stressed out about it?
Kind of what he's talking about is basically a debug mode, right?
Yeah,
pretty much.
I think it's called a museum mode in some cases. And yeah, I mean, most games don't have it, which is kind of interesting. Most games kind of provoke you to clear out an entire area of enemies and then go back and find everything. But that's because the gameplay in that game is really most importantly killing people and then going back and finding crap, and not just finding crap while people are shooting at you. You're like, leave me alone, I'm trying to find some treasure. Like, that doesn't make any sense.
I think that should be a bullet point on the box. Exciting killing people and going back and finding crap gameplay.
So I think the unfortunate real answer to this particular scenario is that even implementing anything in a game these days requires it to be tested and go through certification, even if it's part of the game. Like, games cost so much money now and take so much time that...
So much money that even if you sell 3.5 million copies in 3 weeks, it's considered a disappointment.
Yep,
not enough. Well, they need to revise their own internal expectations, but that's a topic for a different game scoop.
I mean, you're absolutely right. Games are so complex and the team sizes are so large that it's super easy for us to sit here and be like, yeah, just remove the enemies. How hard could that be? But like,
it actually
you don't know,
is.
like, since these games are so scripted, like maybe some enemy being in place, like by removing it, you're breaking something else.
Right.
And so you would need a whole QA team to run through that. There's some feature that the vast majority of people don't care about.
Exactly. I mean, that's the sad reality that didn't exist in the 80s and 90s, right? You could just flip on that stuff and it was a lot easier to get away with.
Yeah, so like Birch wants access to the game options. You know, he wants to open up, sort of go behind the curtain, right, of the game and explore all this stuff. But that's sort of like, how do you balance that with the experience that the developers are trying to create? Right?
Valid point.
Yeah, I think that's you totally nailed it. I think that kind of breaks it a lot. It's the same thing as, like, you know, a movie. You want to stop the movie and you want to see what's on the back of the set and how this costume was made. And you get extras and DVDs and Blu-rays and stuff like that.
You watch them afterwards.
Sure, sure, and you get things like that. But to like stop the game and be like, hold on, like Zach Morris time, freeze everything, spin the whole level around, see how the stilts and everything are holding everything up. Like, I mean, it's too much. And I think games now more than ever are these really kind of highly guided experiences, especially because they're just like, it's cost so much money, we put so much time into this environment and these characters, we want you to just go through this scripted section or loosely scripted section, and experience it the way we want you to experience it.
I can't speak for a Ken Levine, but BioShock Infinite being the hot game of the moment, would Ken want you to be able to peek behind the curtain? I would venture to guess probably not.
But then that leads me to think, well, what's more important, what Ken wants or what the person who bought the game wants?
Sure, I mean, that's a fair point, and that's why, we've sort of been explaining why this isn't a great idea or why maybe Birch is a little off base, but he's right about, like, this is your product, right? Like, let people have fun with it the way that they want to have fun with it.
Sure.
The example, I think I've talked about this on GameScoop before, is Cliff Bleszinski once said that if an easy mode is still too hard for some gamers, like, you failed. Like, you need to make your easy mode basically impossible to fail, because if someone's playing on easy, like, that's what they want to do, right? And so let people play the game that they want to play the game. I mean, I don't think there's anything wrong with that sentiment necessarily.
I think there is a certain level where developers have to stop listening to the people playing their games and just pull the trigger on their own decisions.
Sure. BioWare listens to their fans way too much. If you ask me.
And I think even like Nintendo with Smash Brothers or something like that, people are like, put in Sonic, put in this guy, put in that guy, and they do it to a certain extent. But I mean, eventually you're gonna have a character roster that's every video game character.
What other creative medium is like that? Like if the fans don't like the last song on the new Radiohead record, like sorry guys, we'll record a new song.
Yeah, we'll remaster the record without that.
Yeah, they fly out to the studio, they redo the whole thing. Like, we sent out some new versions of that album That's ridiculous.
I think a lot of that stuff can happen. I wish there was more to do in games when you beat them. Like, you beat Tomb Raider, I'm kind of done with Tomb Raider. I wish I could restart Tomb Raider in New Game Plus.
What about multiplayer?
Like, play around with it.
No, I'm kidding.
No. So I think about, if you had a lot of this stuff, like, let people access all the weapons from the start. Let them just play around with game settings. And, like, I'm going back to GoldenEye as an example, because that unlocked this menu where, like, you could give the enemies 200% health and do, like, if you beat that game on the hardest difficulty, it unlocked all these options.
What was wonderful about that game, too, is that the difficulties weren't just, like, enemies were tougher. They had tiered objectives.
Well, sure, that's a whole different thing.
Yeah, which, I mean, that was just something else to give you more incentive to keep playing.
Yeah.
Just a few other ideas that Birch has here for options. He'd like to be able to remove death animations in Tomb Raider and Resident Evil, make it optional. I don't know why.
So that's sort of like
seeing those death animations.
I guess he just wants to restart faster.
Yeah, maybe.
Is that it, or does he not want to see? Because the other option's like the blood code,
either way,
where you take away all the gore and you take away all the death. And
that seems like it would be easy, since it is an animation that just like begins.
Yeah, just cut it off.
Yeah, just like
skip it.
Yeah. Just
he also said swearing, right?
Well, he'd like the option to remove swearing. He says, maybe people have kids.
A lot of games do actually have that option.
Gears does.
Do they?
Yeah, Gears of
War
does.
What, you beep it or what?
I think
it just puts clown noises over everything.
I just feel like that's actually extra work for the developers, right?
Yeah.
You can't, like you record your dialogue now. You can't just remove certain words. You have to now. You go in and that's actually extra work.
Yeah, I mean, I don't necessarily disagree with any of that. It's like, games used to have blood on/off. That's something that's kind of gone away these days. I mean, I think it's kind of like if you have the option in there at all to have the blood, then your game's already getting the M rating.
Yeah,
so it's like, why,
that's the weird thing. It's like, hey,
so why are you buying it for your kids in the first place?
Yeah.
You're in the store and you're like, I want that game, but can you take the chainsaws and turn them into umbrellas? And like, it's just, just play Mario at that point.
The thing about Tomb Raider is that game's really violent. Like Uncharted is Uncharted rated M or is it T?
I want to say it's T, but maybe it's M. We don't know.
But even if it is, the bottom line is Tomb Raider has a level of violence in it that like Uncharted doesn't have.
That's true.
Yes.
And like it wouldn't take that much to dial it down to be more Uncharted style. Like just take out the crazy kill animations, like take out some of that, like the absolute stuff that pushes the limit, and then suddenly you have a game that's much more sort of Uncharted's level of
the whole
violence.
First couple hours of the game though are about Lara's struggle with that adjusting to that violence, and of course there's the big scene where she first has to do that.
How do you sell these things though? You put up a box that says Tomb Raider for sensitive people, and you have to go buy that, and you're like, you go to school and you're like, oh, which version did you play? And you're like, the sensitive people. Like,
I mean, I think
can't stand cursing.
You can give people the option in the game.
Sure.
Maybe, but you're absolutely right. In the case of Tomb Raider, that's actually a poor example because that violence serves a purpose. Like
but there are plenty of examples.
Yeah.
But it's like saying I'm not going to watch this horror movie until it's on, channel
been edited
5.
for,
Yeah, it's on.
I want to
edited-
watch the airplane version.
Yeah, until it's on a plane, it's like no one. It's like, oh my God, he's gonna. No, next scene, he's fine. Like that's just a weird thing to me. Some games are violent games because they're violent games. Like we can't. It's like saying I want a E-rated game to have violence options.
That would be. Can I
Like
add
Kirby,
violence?
when he inhales a guy, he
to Lego
spits
Star
out his
Wars?
blood and guts, and he's like, "Yeah, I fucking killed you."
Like the Goomba, when you stomp on a Goomba, he gets
Just
like a
like-
letter sent to his family. Like, yeah,
Well, they actually there was a video going around a couple months ago that was like it was Super Mario Brothers, but with like next gen rated M sound effects, and he would land on a Goomba and just like, and he's like, "Oh!" and he's like, jumping and running. It was like disgusting. I was like, I don't want to play that game. That's awful.
Birch wants to be able to access mini games anytime after they're discovered. Like in Far Cry, if you want to play like the knife throwing game, you have to drive to
Totally,
the lab.
totally. Yeah.
That makes sense.
yeah, I mean, I'm generally in favor of once someone's beaten the game and played it the way that the developer wanted it to be played. Yeah, give them the keys to the sandbox. Why not?
Yep.
It gives people more reason to come back.
Bring
to the
back
game.
sound tests. Those were fun.
I love the sound
are really
test.
fun.
You can hear all the sound effects.
You
Like,
just
this
play
is
them
like,
for hours, just messing around.
That's kind of a retro game thing. You used to
I
be able
know.
to listen
Very
to
much.
every individual sound effect, every music track in the game. I thought that was awesome.
I
Yeah.
don't think that's shown up in a game in 15 years.
No, because you'd have like 15 straight ones of Lara Croft going like, ah, ah.
That'd be awesome.
And you just have to keep in those.
There's like 100 different shotgun blast sounds you hear.
Oh, they got to bring that back. That would be so cool.
Yeah.
That would be really good.
I think I need to time my jump right. Like, shut up! I know. I just haven't gotten it right yet.
You see, Justin, this turned out to be an interesting topic.
Oh yeah, I was skeptical.
You were skeptical about this topic
Really?
today. Yeah. Thanks, guys, and thank you, viewers. Remember, you can always reach us at gamescoop@ign.com. Stay tuned for more video game discussions right here on IGN Gamescoop.